What we've got is this. It's a Akigawa, is that how it's pronounced? CB tester for the UK market, and it's the FS117. So the idea is that you can do deviation on this, and it's a relatively inexpensive upper hobby grade type of instrument. It also runs on a PP3 9-volt battery. We are not doing that, we're running it from the external power supply. So whilst I've got this walkie-talkie on the bench, what we're going to do is I'm going to set the power supply so I get exactly 3 watts on my Marconi test set. So we already know the radio is capable of doing 4, but I'm going to vary the power so that we get 3 watts precisely. So if I can press the right button and put picture in picture on, there we go. Let's key up. And we're just about at full scale deflection. So here we go. That's about 3 watts. So now we'll unplug that from the test set. And we'll plug it into this instead. And what I need is an adapter, because it needs, I've got BNC here, and I need something to go into the test set. Well, that was a good start to the video. I have to go and find an adapter, so we'll pause the video. Right, let's see what happens. So we know it's 3 watts into the test set, so we want to be on dummy load, which we are, 5 watt range, RF power. Let's key up. Well, that does a whole lot of nothing, doesn't it? Right, we'll put a dummy load in. Switch to antenna. Okay, well, does deviation work? Wallow. 1, 2. Wallow. 1, 2. It does actually, it's about right as well. 1, 2. Wallow. It could be low if anything. Well, at least the meter movement works, so why aren't we getting any power? I wonder if we've got duff diodes inside. Right. Let's pause the camera and I'll open up the unit. So basically we've got an FM receiver with 3 crystals for the channels. What have they chosen? 120 and 40 UK channels. So that's what that's all about. And last time I got one of these, the FM chip had died. This one's fine, and this one, of course, it's not reading anything on the SWR. So I wonder if we've got some duff diodes. There's our dummy load in the back, which looks about 5 watts ish. I mean, the simplest possible level is this tight. I haven't got a spanner on here, but we'll just use these pliers. I've certainly been able to tighten it, and it could be as simple as that. I've taken this cover off. So let's try once again. So switch to the internal dummy load, 5 watt range, power, press transmit, we've got it. Good, well that was easy, wasn't it? So into the antenna we should get the same. So it's reading somewhat fast because we know it should be 3 watts. So we should be able to calibrate that. So one would think that if the potentiometer that says low will be the 5 watt range. So I've got 3 watts now showing, and then on the 20 watt range we want it to read, good grief, that's like Zitagi watts, that is. Right at the wrong end. Oh, my radio's doing 1,000,000 watts. Only because you've fiddled with the meter settings. There we go, that's 3. That's 3. So deviation, Warlow. I wonder if that's now because I've got the shroud off. It's interfering with itself. In fact, now I've tightened those up. Tighten those up, we'll put the cover back on. Making sure I'm not trapping any of those cables. Let's see if it works now. RF power. So that one's now calibrating again for 3 watts. And the 20 watt scale needs recalibrating. For there. So check again. 3 watts full scale on that scale. 20 watts, 3 watts is on that scale. So we're about right now. So once again, we'll go into deviation. Warlow. Warlow. 1 2 Warlow. Warlow. 1 2 1 2 Warlow. It could do with being a little bit higher. Let's get the oscillator on the SWR set. Warlow. 1 2 Warlow. Wallow. Wallow. 1 2 1 2. Wallow. 1 2 1 2. So there we go. We've got about 1. We know it's 2.2 to 2.5. 1 2. Wallow. And that's about what we're getting on there. We can just prove it on the test set. We'll plug the radio back in to the our test set. Make sure we're getting something similar. So go over to mod. 1 2 1 2. Wallow. It is reading the same. Once again, I'll check the power. Three watts. Three watts. 3 watts, and we know it's 250 milliwatts on this radio. So on low power, and it's showing what? That would be half a watt. So yeah, it's between half and he's right. So that's power set. Deviation is set. So let's make sure it's reading the same into our dummy load. Put it back on high power. There's a discrepancy between internal dummy load and our dummy load. Maybe different when it's in the case again. No, it's a plastic case, it won't make any difference. So let's check SWR. Calibrate. So calibrate. Measure. And it says the SWR is spot on, which of course it is. We know our aerial here is, what is it, about 1.7 to 1, something like that. Let's see what it says. So calibrate, measure. It says it's about 1.3 to 1, so fair enough, if that's what it says. So we'll just make sure it does deviation on the other two channels, although I'd never check it on them normally. So because it's got it and they are crystals, I will just check. So channel 40. 1 2. Wallow. 1 2 1 2. So it's reading that one. Channel 1. Wallow. 1 2. It's doing that one. Channel 20. One, two, there we go. So you can put an external crystal in and switch to that if you want to spend 35 quid having a crystal made. So there we are. It does it. It wasn't working. It was just the screws on the back of the things needed tightening, and then I've just gone through that calibration, and there we go. I've got a 9-volt battery on the bench. I don't know whether it's any good, but if I get the meter out, we could just find out. So I said to the customer, I said, I'm not a calibration station for these. We can only kind of calibrate it to what we've got. Well, it's got something in it. It might work. Let's see. You only need the battery when you're doing deviation check, because it has to work the FM receiver. So I'm going to unplug the power. There we go. I'm going to plug in the 9-volt battery. And let's see. Wallow. Yeah. 1 2. Wallow. Testing 1 2. Wallow. Yeah, it's working fine. I will just see if we've got a set which will go on to AM, just for the completeness. Right, so what I've done, I've now put a Midland 78. It used to be the one in the test car. It's going to find its way into the van eventually. So 20 watt range, we've got 4 watts. 5 watt range, we've got 4 watts. So let's look at the deviation on this one. 1, 2. Oh, I need to put that battery back on, don't I? Because to connect the radio up, I've had to unplug this from the power unit. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Wallow. That seems about where it should be. And then AM, this radio will do AM. So this time we have to reprogram it, and I can't even think how that's done. It's not much matter of going into AM FM. It's got to go into Spain because it's made before 2014. So if we switch it off, you have to press 2 buttons at once. Is it those 2? Yeah, what it is. So we'll set it for Spain, or is it EC or E anyway, whatever it is. So now we should be able to go into AM, which we can. Put it to channel 20. And then we can test the AM mod. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, well that's not right, is it? Wallow. 1, 2, 1, 2. Wallow. Wallow. 1, 2, 1, 2. Wallow. That's about where it should be. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Wallow. So that's working. You have to be in measure mode. Let's go just check the deviation again. If I go back to FM and then back into UK channels, we'll turn it back off, turn it back on. Select FM, yeah, UK. Wallow. 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing Wallow. Yeah, that sounds about where it should be. Good. So we'll take our battery off and put the lid back on. I take it you bought this as non-working. But you have to remember these are not laboratory instruments, you know, it's only a hobbyist check type of thing. I think I've even got a instruction book of one of these on file. So I must check if the customer has that. It's not obvious how these things work. I've had to realise that it has to be measured to do AM mod. And it shows that of course it needs to be. So there we go. So thank you for watching the Akigawa CB tester, which I take it must be from around about 1982, 1983.